Bonjour la classe. Today we're here to learn about savoir and connaître, the two different ways to say to know in French. First thing to know is that savoir and connaître are both irregular verbs, so you need to memorize their conjugations. Here are their conjugations. You're going to want to copy them down in your notes. Something to note is that in the conjugation of connaître, you will have an accent circumflex on the il allemand form only, none of the other forms. Okay? So for connaître, it means to know, and we're talking about knowing people and places. We'll get more in depth on that in just a minute. Our conjugations are je connais, tu connais, il connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, ils connaissent. Then we have savoir, which is to know facts. Je sais, tu sais, il sait, nous savons, vous savez, ils savent. As I said, there are two ways to say to know in French, and those are savoir and connaître. Both are irregular verbs, so make sure you copy down and memorize their conjugations. Those were just a few seconds ago. And then you pick either savoir or connaître based on what is being known. So if you say, I know my brother, you're going to pick savoir or connaître based on what is being known, which is your brother. In that case, we will use connaître because connaître is used to talk about knowing people, places, or things. But maybe if we're talking about I know how to use a screwdriver, that would be savoir because that is information. That's how you do something. We're going to start out with savoir, which is knowing information. And these are things that one can learn by studying or knowing in terms of knowledge. So if you were to read a book about it, if you were to go to a class about it, if a teacher were to teach you about it, that would be savoir. Nous savons qu'il est un homme gentil. Okay? For this, we know that he is a nice guy. If we have studied him, if we have been around him, we know that he's a nice guy. It's information about this guy who's nice. We'll also use savoir for abilities. So if we're saying he knows how to cook or she knows how to read, we would use savoir. Here our example is il sait nager. He knows how to swim. And then we have clause words. If you're using a clause word like qui, quand, où, comment, those words will indicate that you will use savoir because those are talking about information. Here's our example. Est-ce que tu sais l'heure que le train arrive? Do you know the time that their train arrives? That's information about the train. And right here we have que, which is our clause word telling us that we would be using savoir. Connaître is used when talking about people, places, and things and knowing them. It expresses familiarity with a person, thing, or a place. So we say, je connais Paul. I know Paul. He's a person. I'm familiar with him because I know who he is. Then we have ils connaissent la définition. They know the definition. That's information about the definition. Sorry, it's a thing because we're using connaître. Ils connaissent la définition. Savoir connaître can also, you can use one or the other with nouns depending on what you're talking about. Okay, so with knowledge of things, you can use a verb, or you can use either verb, but the meaning is different. So for savoir, we have a deep knowledge about a thing. And then for connaître, we have a surface level knowledge about a thing. Let's look at some examples. Right here, we're talking about knowing my lesson. The lesson is a thing. So here we have je sais ma leçon. Okay, when I use savoir with a thing, we're saying it's because I learned it and I know it by heart. It's something very, very deep. Savoir is for deep things. When I say je connais ma leçon, I know it because I've read it before or I know what it's about, but it's only surface level knowledge. I have not really studied ma leçon. I know his poem. Je sais son poème. Because I learned it, I memorized it, I know his poem very deeply. Maybe I even know its background. Maybe I even have talked to the author about it. I know it very deeply. If I say je connais son poème, it's I know it, I know who wrote it, and I've heard of it before, but it's not something that I know very, very deeply. I haven't studied it deeply. Remember, savoir is things that we can learn by studying, whereas connaître is knowing about people, places, or things, and it's that surface level knowledge. We cannot switch between savoir and connaître with people because it's really creepy if you're talking about savoir and a person because you're talking about knowing them very, very, very deeply, and that's not how it works. You cannot savoir a person. But you can savoir abilities, information. And then if we're talking about knowing something very deeply, we talk about things. And then connaître will be reserved for people, places, and things for nouns. Here's your à bouffer. What I need you to do is fill in the blank with the correct conjugation of either savoir connaître, depending on what is being known. And this is from that Texas French grammar site. So if you'll just pick which verb, either savoir connaître, based on what's being known, and pick the correct conjugation, which was on that very first slide that we saw. À bientôt!